Hey everybody, and welcome to Twin Talk, a video discussion show where twin brothers Chris and Kevin drink and draw while talking about comic books, movies, and all things pop culture. We are your hosts, Chris Hart,
Kevin Hart,
and today we're going to be talking about Spider-Man 3, unfortunately.
Stick around to the end of the episode to see how our drawing of Sandman came out. And if you like what you see, subscribe to the channel for more content. Spider-Man 3 was released in 2007. It's a romantic comedy directed by Sam Raimi, starring Tobey Maguire, Topher Grace, and Kirsten Dunst, and James Franco.
This movie is a camp fest, man. I don't know if it was like, it's just cheese.
This
Much cheese.
movie gave me cancer.
This movie gave me AIDS.
God, I hate this movie.
Last night we were sitting down to watch it. I don't own it. I forgot to bring the physical copies because I'm going to be like, I only own the first two for a good reason. And when having to watch it for this show, I realized that I either needed to pay for it or get it on a streaming site. So I called this man up, got one of his 18 streaming sites, and I was like, okay. I watched it on a very shady website that funded terrorism. I'm sauced. I'm right where I need to be for this film review.
Yep.
I got it on this thing. Terrible audio, garbage audio. It was like a trash can, and I was just like, all right, this is the way I need to watch this movie.
Yep.
And I knew I needed to drink to watch this movie again.
Because don't ever watch this movie sober.
I've seen this movie twice. Once in theaters, and I was just numb leaving the theater. And then the second time, years later, I was like, okay, let me give it a rewatch. Mm-hmm. Maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought. It was just as bad as I thought.
It's actually worse than you remember.
But watching it last night, I had a couple beers, and it was just what I needed. Just to wind down, watch a crappy movie. I was like, all right, especially coming off Venom 2, Let There Be Carnage. I was like, it's not that bad. It just does not feel connected to the first two films. Even in the theater, at the age of 15, I felt something was off.
Something was different.
Something was off. Even the score, like Danny Elfman's score, the music was so iconic in the first
It's a different
movies.
composer.
Is it really?
Yeah, different composer.
Wow.
Christopher Young, I think, is the composer.
There we go.
The minute the score changed and the Venom was, I was like, I don't know if I like the sound. Even the sound threw me off.
It's just not the same. Something feels very off with this movie.
And Sam Raimi too, great direction still. There's some moments in this movie.
That's what I'm saying.
That movie still has some impressive things done with it. But I'm like, man, the fact that he had a hand in the story, I was like, oh god, all of it is just cornball.
I do not blame Sam Raimi for this movie. Even the story threads, that he's doing, very cheesy here and there.
They do connect.
They do connect. They're very Sam Raimi as far as camp factor, but the emotional threads and story points from the first two movies, he is trying to connect them in this movie. This is the movie that had the ultimate studio interference.
Yes.
They said, no matter what, Venom has to be in this movie. Sam Raimi did not want to do that, but obviously they're paying the bills, so he has to incorporate Venom into this movie, and it just felt too much, too bloated. It's too many things going at once.
It's entirely too much happening.
And it just doesn't, it's not cohesive. It doesn't work.
You could tell by the cuts, the poor CGI at moments, the runtime is exhausting.
It is, yeah.
I was so frustrated watching this, rewatching the movie.
What was it, 2:20? 2 hours and 20 minutes?
Yeah, it's 2 and change, yeah. And it's just, it feels longer.
Yeah, it definitely drags at the end because once my buzz wore off, I realized that I was in for the ride. It's obviously the demise of this franchise and why they ended up rebooting it, because there was plans for a fourth one with Ben Kingsley as the Vulture, which would have been dope. But
I think even Kurt Connor's finally becoming a lizard.
Yeah, so
sprinkled throughout this
Sam Raimi had plans for future installments, but the movie was just so poor, they just rebooted the whole thing.
And that's a shame too, because they pushed Venom so hard. If you really watch this, Venom is only in this movie for 20 to 30 minutes.
Barely in the movie.
Yeah.
Looking back at it now, I hated the creature design for Venom at the time. But looking at it now, it's pretty cool. It's
not bad.
It's not bad.
Not great, not bad.
Yeah, 7, 10.
6, 9, 7.
One bite, everybody
little floppy.
The Topher Grace aspect of it, though, is the ultimate failure. That guy was so miscast. He is not who you want playing Eddie Brock.
No.
And his motivations as a character in this movie are just not compelling.
it's not justifiable to want to murder somebody.
Yeah, he's literally begging God to kill Peter Parker because he was a fraudulent, photographer at the Daily Bugle.
Eddie Brock, who's supposed to be this like hulking jock, does not fit the bill at all.
One thing I noticed too is like his girlfriend at the time in this movie is Gwen Stacy. She's literally dangling from 70 floors, and her father's standing there like, "Oh, my daughter's up there." Eddie's taking pictures of her too, and he's like, "Oh, I'm dating your daughter. I'm porking your daughter. I was porking your daughter. She's about to fall to her death." There was no stakes in either one of them, the father or the boyfriend. It's like. What is happening in this movie? It just felt so cheese.
I didn't like the new additions. Like, okay, Harry, as horrible as he was too, James Franco was just terrible.
It was still a connective tissue.
Connective tissue. The new stuff, even Bryce Dallas Howard, I hated her as Gwen. Gwen is a blonde bimbo, in this one. Homewrecker. And Eddie Brock, get him out of here. The symbiote
Terrible.
was the only saving grace. The symbiote was sick, actually. Eddie Brock.
It looked pretty cool.
It was pretty like horrifying at the end when it was like angry at Peter. It was like the noises it made
into this giant thing.
Yeah, the noises it was making was like a raptor and like very like creepy,
very horror-esque. I liked that.
I even liked the way that it wrapped around people. How it was like kind of like
creepy,
jumping.
yeah.
Like it was really cool. Like the design of it, I did like that. Even when it was falling on Eddie Brock, that whole church scene, which is another mistake when. He's like, you want Peter says, you want forgiveness? Get religion.
Yeah.
If you change that line to go to church, it changes the whole thing.
Yeah.
Changes the whole thing. You're like, okay, like that makes sense. We know the church scene.
He's gonna go to church.
Yeah. Peter ripping off the suit. That was one of the cooler moments of the movie too.
When he hits the church bell and the symbiote comes off of him, that's a cool visual. There are things in this movie that I do appreciate. Even like Harry Osborn's weapons are pretty cool in this movie. Although I hate his character design, because there's one scene where we see him transforming into the new Goblin, and they do a pan across his weapons, headquarters, and we see the glider, which looks amazing, and we see 2 Goblin helmets, well 3.
One's murdered out chrome.
One's got this chrome on it, and then the other one is like this snowboard helmet. And which one do they go with? The snowboarder. They could have just made this man the Hobgoblin. It was all set up from the end of Spider-Man 2 to go in that direction of Harry becoming like the next Green Goblin or a Hobgoblin character. And they just completely dropped the ball and make him this new Goblin snowboarder. And it just looks so lame.
Even if you threw a cloak on him, I would have been happy with it.
It would have been a tad better.
Yeah. I did like how his snowboard had like a homing beacon
when he fell,
and it was like beep,
badass,
and it came back to him. That was cool. And the fact that he did have the pumpkin bombs, but I hate the swords. Can't stand the swords.
I like the swords.
Cannot stand the swords.
I really like those.
Can't stand the look. Can't stand his acting.
His acting is really bad.
It's so bad, especially when he loses his mind. He's just like, my best friend.
my best friend. Bobby on the head. It's just so cheese.
And the how's the pie line, man? We cannot.
Oh God.
Oh God.
How's the pie?
So good.
How's the movie?
It's trash, bruh.
Although when Peter looked back and he saw him and he was gone, that was kind of cool.
Even in theaters, I was like,
that was kind of creepy. I was like, that's a cool moment.
Little goblin in him right there. Yeah. Look at little Goblin Jr. You gonna cry? Tobey Maguire is a douchebag in this movie.
Yeah.
He is so self-centered in this movie. Although I will say, like, MJ is even worse. She's even worse.
She's more self-centered.
She is a clingy, emotional wreck in this movie. And, like, I get it. Like, she's got her feelings and stuff. But, like, boo-hoo. You sucked. You got a bad, you got fired from your job because you didn't perform. Period. Like, they brought in a new actress. And that's no reason to just, like, piss all over Peter's parade here. It's like... Just because he's
a literal
hyped.
Parade.
Yeah. Although I will say he was kind of douchey with the upside down kiss.
That was their kiss.
That was uncalled for. But
the sacred kiss, man.
Her motivation to this movie is she has a bad reviews for her play. She gets canned and takes it all out on Peter for whatever reason. He's just hyped to be Spider-Man. Peter is already feeling himself. He's already a little self-absorbed in this because he makes everything about him before the symbiote even gets on him. He's like, oh, I know exactly how you feel. I'm Spider-Man. Everybody loves it. Me, I. And she's already kind of like fed up with it.
You could tell she's upset. He never asks what's wrong.
Yeah.
He tries giving her a solution, and at first she kind of brushes him away, which was like, MJ, come on, you're too much.
He literally gave the solution right there to your problems, and you brushed it off because you wanted to talk about your feelings. Whatever. Like in the comic books, MJ is so much fun. She's so hot and like sexy and God, I love those pages. But she's so like, you could just tell she's such like a fun-loving, like just party animal. And in these movies, she's just like
melodramatic,
so party, like brings down the
nagging.
Party. Yeah, she just brings down the vibe, and you know the vibe of Spider-Man. MJ in this movie is just unbearable to me.
Unbearable, totally.
And she's really let herself go in this movie. Like her hair is like the dye is. You can feel the dye running out. Like it's just so bad. She's not eating. Like it's just so bad.
It's never right to hit a woman, but I like the way.
Bully Maguire.
That's not where I'm going with this. I felt so bad for her, like as a character. Like even like younger when I was watching this, I was like, oh man, that Signal Fire Snow Patrol song gets me teary-eyed every time.
Yeah.
And like their love of like how he's got to reach out and try and rekindle their flame, because that's what Toby wants. Peter wants throughout this entire trilogy is MJ. You know, the kid from high school. He wants the girl, and he gets the girl. The girl, like, is not okay with the balance between Spider-Man. He's got to figure out what he's got to put first. I see what they're trying to do.
She literally left her husband, though, on the altar to go pursue Spider-Man. So it's like, you knew you were getting into, sweetheart. You know, it's
exactly.
Like, I don't feel bad for you.
It's a weird, like you said on the Spider-Man 2, like this trilogy.
And even in the comics, like, MJ is not, she understands the importance of Peter being Spider-Man. She's not like, oh, you're never home for dinner. Who's going to watch The Bachelor with me? Like, she's like, oh, you're saving people's lives. Go get him, Tiger. You know, like... Period.
That's the thing is like in the second one she's like go get him Tiger. I was like oh finally an MJ moment, and then this one Peter's got to ask go get him Tiger and yeah. It's just like God what a dead weight.
Yeah, what a dead weight.
But I did
about the ball and chain.
I did feel bad at the end. I was like all right cool that was because at the end he does like get the girl. It's kind of a weird note.
He gets her back and
it's like a happy note but a sad note of like okay we're gonna try again.
We talked about this in the Spider-Man 2 and it's just a very weird.
It's just
ending.
So awkward. It's like you feel.
Sad.
You feel off.
You don't leave the movie feeling good. You're like, oh crap! Like we just watched a relationship breakdown.
Exactly.
A best friend die, and another man like be forgiven for murder of his uncle. It's like okay, so like what who had fun here today?
Yeah.
Because I sure as hell did.
Because at the end of the first two movies, you got even the soundtracks. You go from like first one's like they say out of here. Second one is Vindicated. Yeah. Third one you're just like. And you're just like crying. You're like, oh my god. I don't want to wait forever. Like that. Now that we know that the multiverse exists and we've seen Into the Spider-Verse, I can see this version of Peter, Tobey Maguire, this Raimi verse, becoming the Peter B. Parker of the Spider-Man. Like where maybe it didn't work out with MJ. You know, they were kind of shaky in the third one. Maybe she got sick of him being Spider-Man or whatever. I could see him kind of like being that version of Peter B. Parker. And I wouldn't mind it. Not gonna lie. It'd be devastating. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It'd be devastating that my childhood Spider-Man, like, it didn't work out.
Fell apart, yeah.
But that'd be a cool character arc if they're going to go that route.
The way that we see Into the Spider-Verse, like, they kind of have even, like, literally, like, shot for shot animations of, like, Peter and MJ in the diner in Spider-Man 2, him stopping the train in Spider-Man 2, him dancing in Spider-Man 3. Like,
is it him?
Is Tobey's Spider-Man Peter B. Parker from Into the Spider-Verse? Let us know in the comments below. But as far as this movie goes, you could see why they hit the reboot button on this thing. I would too. You could just tell that they lost the magic, unfortunately.
Yeah. I can't stand the amount of pelvic thrust that Peter did. It just feels so off character. It is not Peter Parker that we know from the first two films. He looks like the dude Matt Cutchell from the emo dude who's just like on Instagram.
I'm working on my Tonight's your last chance to do exactly what you want to. Well, there he goes.
Like the singer from AFI. He's got the guy liner on. He's got the bangs.
Yeah,
like
him being a badass is putting guy liner on.
Exactly. And he wants milk with his cookies and stuff. It's just weird. It's just bizarre.
Go give me some milk.
Find us some shades.
The way he like the hair thing gets me. It's like okay, now he's a badass because he's got bangs.
Yeah.
Good riddance.
That's what I want to say after watching this film.
We haven't even talked about Sandman because there's so much negativity to talk about.
That's the one pro from this movie.
The one good thing about this movie is Thomas Hayden Church is his name.
Yep.
That guy was a perfect
Ursula!
I knew it was him from George of the Jungle.
Yep.
But he is perfect casting as Sandman. Even the t-shirt look.
The t-shirt down.
It looks great. The animation, obviously, the budget for the CGI obviously went into the animation of Sandman because This movie is the weakest of the CGI and visual effects.
There's some shots that are like, yikes.
And even though it was newer, the CGI doesn't hold up anywhere near as good as the first two, because I just feel like it was just a total like crap show, you know?
That's one of my favorite scenes is, despite all the action, quote unquote, of like the ring, you know, Peter's got the ring, the goblin's coming after him, you know, the end with the sacrifice of hair. None of that works. The best part for me is the origin of Sandman. When he's like, it's so heartbreaking and tragic, beautifully realized with him like trying to walk again. That's the one moment where the score did touch me a little bit, holding the heartstrings. I was like, okay, like I'm feeling this. He's trying to, you know, pay for his daughter's medical needs and stuff. And the visuals there were just unbelievable, especially for the time. It still holds up, that scene.
I thought it looked pretty good.
But that's my favorite scene. And that's sad because like the rest of the film is just so forgettable. Even the end, oh my God, the climax of this movie. When Venom's spelling out Spider-Man.
Oh my God.
Spider-Man, can you stop us now? Oh my God.
Yeah.
So cheesy.
In the Spider-Man cartoon, like, font.
Yeah, what a disrespectful. What a slap in the balls.
My nuts hurt watching this movie.
The whole newscast thing felt so bizarre, so left field. The British, you know, okay, just because the reporter is British, it makes the news more, like, heavy.
Intense.
The freaking news anchor, I didn't know which eye to look at.
When I sent you a picture of this, I was like, this has to be the thumbnail for this video, because when this guy's eye is cooked. Like, when he showed up, I texted you, I was like, when this guy showed up, I mentally checked out of this movie. I was like, I am done. Somebody paid this man.
I'm surprised you even stayed mentally checked in up to that point.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
When he's like, this looks like the end for Spider-Man as a franchise. Like, when that guy comes on TV, I was like, oh my God, this guy's in the movie.
Yeah. I don't know who's knocking on death's door more, the newscast anchor or freaking the butler, Bernard, whoever. The dude who just necessarily, you know, spews out exposition that could have been so beneficial 2 movies ago.
Your father killed himself with his wounds. Where's this guy been for the last 2 movies? I will say, when Peter throws the pumpkin bomb at Harry, I felt bad. I was like, yeah, that's definitely the end of their friendship.
It's a bit too far.
But at the end, they become pals again. Because even with a burnt face, he's like, you know, like, it's such a cheese fest. Like, he's like, oh, like, up high, buddy. Hey, pal. Like, let's help each other. It's like, this man literally just burnt half your face off 10 minutes ago.
He's heading in the right direction. He's a hero.
They're just best friends again. Yeah. And then, like, I do like that, like, him and Harry teamed up at the end, because to me it felt like a natural progression of their story, of their characters.
These are the same kids that were at that science fair.
Like best friends. Yeah. I get it.
I do feel like that sequence in this film when he is chasing after Gwen, that like sparked all like gameplay of any future franchise Spider-Man game. When he's like going through the rocks,
between the rubble,
yeah,
that was really cool. Yeah,
like, you know, you hit the B button. Okay, Spider-Man then like reacts. Like, I feel like that was groundbreaking. But other than that, this film's trash, Brock. Trash. I'm gonna rub some dirt in your eye, Raimi. Final grade for this film, dude. I was even trying to be generous. I was giving it a 4, and it just lowered down to 2.5. By the end of me watching this, you cannot watch this sober. I advise you, strongly advise alcohol or any, you know, mind-inducing, mind-altering substance. Dude, it's so bad. It really is.
Just like pour some like bath salts.
Even the Venom franchise is better than this. I'd rather watch Carnage.
Well, you gave what? Let There Be Carnage a 7?
Yeah, like 7.
So I mean, that was really generous. I gave Let There Be Carnage a 2.5. To me, I'm gonna give this movie a 5. I'm gonna give this movie a 5 because as a film, they at least put effort into it. Obviously, there was a lot of studio interference, so it just, the final product doesn't show the effort that I'm sure that half these people gave to it. I did enjoy it overall upon rewatch. Again, highly recommend alcohol to watch this, but it's enjoyable to an extent. You could throw this on and have it be whatever. This movie at least has some cohesive story threads and plots. So
it tries.
It has some character arcs that pay off. So for that reason, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. I don't know if we ever like explained our grade. This is not a 5 out of 5. This is a 5 out of 10.
Yeah.
So that wraps it up for the Raimi trilogy. Up next, we got The Amazing Spider-Man, The Amazing Spider-Man 2, Into the Spider-Verse, and then we have Spider-Man Homecoming and Far From Home. We've already covered the Venom movies. It's been a lot of fun doing these Spider-Man reviews. I'm hoping you guys are having much fun and checking out the movies too. And look forward to the next ones.
Bringing it all the way to No Way Home, baby, at the end of the year. What did you guys think about Spider-Man 3? Let us know in the comments below. Anyways, that about wraps up today's episode of Twin Talk. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Comment below to join the discussion, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel for more content. We'll see you next time. Peace!